All right, guys, I'm here at Spokane Valley Archery with Josh Jones, the coach, the guy. So rather than do an instructional video, you guys are flies on the wall watching me ask Josh my dumb questions because hunting season's 2 months out and I'm trying to get the Vertix still dope it perfect, as well as double check my traverse. We still got to do the shoot-in video for that. We will, we promise, because I'll have that bow set up. All right, first things first. I wanted to make this. A lot of people are asking me about this Hamskea rest. Why did I take the custom built to this bow QAD rest off and put the Hamskea on YouTube? I just said, hey, I want this because it's limb driven. I can tell if something's wrong, super easy. I can adjust it, and I think it just works better for me. Anything else you want to add to that?
Well, there's definitely a durability factor in that over the other one. I mean, if you look at the rests, that thing's like 3 times as heavy duty. Everything in it is built for beef. It's designed to take a tumble off your four-wheeler or go hiking down the mountain and drop your bow, and it goes ting, 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 and hits a rock 3 times on the arrow rest, and you can't hurt the arrow rest. Now, I'm not knocking the other rest for that, because most rests are built with the level of durability that other rest that you had on there was.
Yeah.
But I would struggle to believe that you could hit that with a rock and not bend the arm or cause some kind of a failure. 1, 2. When you have things that attach to your cables, as that cable stretches, not only does it change the initiation spring, so that rest has to be at a certain point. So when you fire it, the spring inside disengages quick enough that it goes by. Any rest that you can cock up in place and it'll stay there when you set the bow down has a disengaged spring in it. And if that timing isn't just perfect, it won't fall.
That makes sense.
Or it won't cock back down on a limb driven style. So this, because it simply moves up and down, there's no cocking, there's no disengaging, it will never, ever, ever do that, no matter what you do.
Will the arrow stay on the rest longer?
Any limb driven, yes, for sure, because it's a spring tension up rest. So if you were to take that cord that activates it and you cut it, rest pops up.
Yeah.
So it's spring tension up. So as soon as your limb starts to move up, your rest is coming up. So you have 3/4 to 7/8 of the cycle of the arrow going forward with rest stability against it, whereas a spring tension one's falling almost immediately, so it doesn't give the arrow the extra bit of stability. And if you look at like a target archer setup, guy shooting 90 meters and just driving tacks, he's got a spring steel style rest, which is a fixed arm with a given amount of tension on it that never falls. It's always there. Why? Because it creates more stability. So a rest that stays up longer is going to be slightly more stable than one that falls immediately.
Boom!
Well,
Did you hear that? Yeah.
Well, that's part of it. And those rests, you can actually turn them into that. So this mechanism in here, you can turn the spring around and make it a stiff up rest and put a blade on it that has tension. So you can do target and hunting, and in its perfect form of choice with that rest. It'll do both. So when you have a cable that attaches to your here, not only does the timing of the rest have to be perfect, but as that cable stretches, it's changing your bow's timing.
Yeah.
Because that cable is pulling on here, and it's making this slightly shorter than that. So you have to time your bow based off of that. So if that cord stretches just a little bit, which it will. No, it will.
It will?
It will. You'll not avoid it. It will happen. It'll get hot. It'll get wet. It'll get dry. It'll get dirty. Something will cause it to give a little bit. And not only is your timing to your rest off, but your bow's timing is off. So you've got one cam coming over slightly before the other. Limb-driven rest, if that stretches, which it may, you just retighten it.
And you can tell by looking at it real quick, should be all the way down.
Yeah. Well, and you actually want it, you don't want it super stiff, like this might be a tiny bit too heavy because you want it to freely come up. It's just pulling it out of the way. But if this did stretch to where that rest was coming up a little too much, you just tighten the cord, but you didn't change the bow's timing.
Right.
Even when the rest comes up a little bit, the bow is still cycling exactly the same. It's just whether or not your rest is moving all the way up.
And I'm into that. The less that could go wrong, the better.
It's a lower failure rate possibility.
That's a way better answer.
Go ahead and ask the next thing.
That's a way better answer than I could ever come up with. But that's why you got to have a good mentor. So, okay, Josh is going to love this next part, and I don't like it, but I'm going to just do it. I'm a Full Metal Jacket. I'm a Full Metal Jacket guy, true. Like, I usually shoot a 500 grain total weight setup on elk. And it's because he calls me a Smurf. I'm short. My draw lane's 27, and I have shot bulls in the shoulder, not the shoulder blade, in the shoulder, and punch through all the way through, pass throughs. I have shot a bull quartering 2 through the shoulder blade and got both lungs. So it's allowed a little margin of error, and I always am shooting bulls in brush country where it's 20 yards is kind of a long shot. Like, it's real up close. So kind of got some antelope, mule deer hunts lined out. I'm going to Wyoming. It's going to be longer shots. I wanted to increase my speed, and I still didn't want to sacrifice too much weight. So Josh talked me into buying this arrow right here. This is an Axis match grade. It's 9.5 GPI, and this is where I'm going to ask Josh a couple specific questions, but I didn't wrap it like I usually do. I want to keep as much weight off the back end as possible. I put 50 grains of brass up front. Thought about going 75, but he was out of town, so I had to make the decision. And then we did a helical on these 2-inch blazers to the left because of his conversation with me about clocking arrows and figuring out which way they spin out of the bow. And all his research and all his friends' research has shown that about 9 out of 12 arrows, so you shoot a dozen arrows with some chalk on them, out of each bow that they shot, 9 out of 12 was the average that went to the left.
Every arrow is going to naturally turn right or naturally turn left when you fire it out of the bow because they're wrapped. So they're wrapped in a given direction. There's like 6 layers, 5 layers, depending on which arrow. So, but they twist. And the premise of clocking your arrow is to see which way that arrow is turning out of the bow when you fire it without fletching on it. So it knows that it's naturally trying to go to the left or naturally trying to go to the right.
And it won't be a lot, right? Like,
no,
just be
it's a little.
It's
a little, but you're not trying to rob that little bit of extra energy away by an arrow that wants to turn to the left, and then you're trying to force it back to the right, or vice versa.
Okay.
And the majority of testing has shown that most arrows want to clock left. Out of the testing I've done, out of the testing some of my friends that own shops and other places have done, it shows that it wants to turn to the left. So if you're not sure which way you're going to go, left is your odds on likely.
I know these guys would love for us to probably make a video on that, and we will. We have a video list. It's up there. We'll get to that. But moving on to this, so I went with the left helical, and Josh is a helical fan. So here's what we got for a setup, Josh. We got to the left, but I cut it like as short as I possibly could. And now I'm wondering if I did cut it too short. So I'm going to have you check that.
Okay.
And then...
How much shorter than your FMJ is it?
At least a ½ an inch.
So you gained at least 1/3% FOC, everything else being equal, just with that.
And stiffer, right?
And stiffer.
So 340, and I think they might, I don't think they're too short. I'm going to have him check real quick. And then the last thing is when I did put this rest on, I went to go sight it in, and I needed to move my rest. I mean my sight, my windage. So far left that I still was shooting left. So in the field, I moved my rest, obviously adjusted it so I could, and now I think things might be screwed up.
No, that's bad.
I know, but you were out of town. This is what happens when Josh goes out of town. So let's figure out the arrow part first.
And part of the reason you had to move left is because of this bracket, and there's additional bracketry under here to allow your sight to move farther to the left. So you didn't need to do any of that.
God dang it. Okay, well, that's exactly what happened was we put this on because I cut my arrow short, and I couldn't fit my arrows in the Matthews quiver, the 2-piece. So I'm like, well, I got to go with the tight spot. So I'm going to have this camera.
Yeah, you actually didn't need the elevated bracket either.
You think I could? I don't know.
Oh, no, you might have just to
No,
clear
I did.
here.
I couldn't clear. I tried without.
Yeah, you could move
It
your
was
sight.
right up against the
So you
roll.
could have moved your sight back one more set of holes.
Okay.
And then mounted that here, and you would have probably had enough clearance to get it without the extra bracket, which wouldn't have caused your sight to sit over, which wouldn't have caused all that left to right problem.
Thanks for going out of town. All right, now watch.
Thanks for making these decisions to do this while I'm out of town. Oh, you got plenty of length.
Okay, you're good with that?
I'd have cut that 1/4 to a half shorter than that.
That's good. So these are like not even 26 inches.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
That's right to the bolt hole here, so that's more than adequate clearance. You could bolt any kind of arrow rest on there that you wanted, and those arrows would be long enough.
All right, this next thing is when I pull back, I noticed that the arrow's doing some things.
Okay.
And I don't know, like...
stand behind you then.
All right.
Go ahead and do it again.
So what I'm saying is when the arrow goes back, it looks like it's kind of like doing that. So I'll have you watch. And then I want to shoot through paper.
Yeah,
I have no
when you
idea.
change to that lighted knock, it might be a little fatter and you might be getting a little pinch.
And this lighted knock, shout out to whoever made this. I love how it turns on like 30% of the time it'll go off. That's a cool design. Like just thought I'd throw it out. I'm not gonna throw this manufacturer under the bus, but
yeah, you're getting some pinch.
okay.
So you need to widen in here. There's
Okay.
too much tension on your knock.
Okay.
Which is probably affecting your tune a little bit and probably affecting your grouping.
Should I even shoot?
Oh, you can shoot it, but we're gonna move the loop anyway a little. Well,
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Cool. So what Josh is saying, I'm gonna show you guys and have him tell you one more time. So
where's that? Grab that arrow. That's what it looks like. It looks like there's just not enough give in here.
and did you see that little
Oh, look,
fray?
it turned on.
Oh, nice. You see the fray?
Yeah,
Is that an issue?
That's because your release has burrs on it. Because you've shot it forever and not changed. So it's developed a sharp edge, most likely. Okay, so when you put this in here, it doesn't want, it's like you start moving the arrow shaft up at an angle, and it feels really stiff. Might need to back up a little. All right.
Gotta get right up in here.
Okay, so when you set this in here, when you try to move your arrow up a little bit, it feels stiff. Like it doesn't feel like it can freely move at an angle. When you draw your bow back, especially a shorter axle to axle bow, this is not straight, it's curved. You can't see it very well, but it's got a little bit of curve to it. So you lose some gap here. So this is too tight. That's why you're getting that rise when you're drawing your bow back and the arrow wants to curve up a little bit. So the solution to that is to remake your loop, widen it out a little bit, put a little bit more soft knot in there, and give yourself a little more gap, and you should be good.
So it's a whole new thing when I switch to left-handed.
Are you really?
I think I'm gonna have to.
Are you left-eye dominant?
Yes.
Oh.
That's gonna be
That'll
fun.
be a challenge.
Yeah,
I'm not excited about it.
bring the
honestly.
training wheels back. Actually, I don't think it'll be as tough as you think it is.
I think in the long term, it'll be the best decision. It's a mutual fund.
Yeah, it is. It's a long-term growth potential.
Okay, and then so the other thing is while I'm holding, I feel like I should probably put a little more weight in the back and a little less weight up.
On the front?
Yeah,
Sure.
the way it feels while at hold.
Sure.
Are you okay with that?
I am. It's a balance thing, finding the comfort point where your bow doesn't want to turn or pitch or yaw. And if the way your bow sits, I mean, Matthews has a lower grip than most, so their bow already feels like it wants to go forward. Putting a stabilizer out in the front and weight on it will make it feel worse. And the only way to compensate for that is to take as much weight off of here and put it back here. Or make this one longer and that one shorter. But as you've heard from my discussions, I'm much more happy with longer, even if it's got less weight on it, because
Right.
it feels
Yes.
like it's more
That's
effective.
just physics. That makes sense to me. So can I make this front lighter by taking those little
Yeah,
guys
we can
off?
put those there and put them in here.
Okay. Maybe I'll start with that and see how that feels.
You can even start by just taking the two off and not adding them to the back. See how
Okay.
that feels, and then if it still feels like it's front heavy, then start adding those weights back on the back end. Because the bow's already got a decent amount of weight to it. You don't really need to make it heavier than it is.
Okay, and then this weekend when I go up to my cabin, I'm going to do my third axis on this site.
Mm-hmm.
What's the magical distance for me to shoot from? And I'm going to shoot downhill predominantly.
Mhm.
And then I'll probably switch to uphill to confirm.
What it does on downhill will do the opposite on uphill. So if you're left downhill, it'll be right uphill, but it's the same
Right.
thing. And the same adjustments fix it.
Do you prefer downhill when you're adjusting your third axis, or you don't care?
It doesn't matter. Downhill will show you that your draw length's too long, even stronger. Regardless, downhill will show your faults way more than uphill does, because you lose the length
Right.
from your footing.
That makes sense.
So that is much better.
Much better?
Yeah, mucho better.
Now,
That
do you
should
think
alleviate that.
this deal
This is more critical on shorter axle bows too. Like when
Okay.
the shorter this gets, the harder this is to keep that way, because it's just increasing the amount of pressure that this feels every time you draw it back.
on this loop, should I replace it or am I good?
I would take a really strong look at your release and try to figure out what your release is doing to cause that,
It look.
and touch it up with some emery cloth,
Oh yeah.
polish it.
Okay. So that
Not the end
concludes
of
the
the world.
bulk of my questions for you.
Can I fix this? This is
Yeah, so we're going to tell people what we're doing.
There are instances where this bracket is very helpful, but this is not one of them where it's necessary. So because of that, we are going to take it out. You're trying to do stuff on your own, and that's great, but you've added things that you don't need to the
I
equation.
warned you. You start showing me how to do stuff, including when
I
I get a
know.
bow press. It's going to
I know.
get... This is just the beginning.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to keep fixing
I'm
your
going to
decision
go
making.
home and do all these things.
Yeah. But that's how you learn. I mean, I dabbled so much. I mean, I was really fortunate that when I was 18, I didn't go to college. And literally, I worked probably 60 hours a week. And when I wasn't working, I was playing with stuff.
Yeah.
I had my own keys to my dad's shop, my dad's building. And I would be at the shop at
Have you thought
12
about
o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning.
just tinkering?
Tinkering and playing with stuff. And we had we couldn't do it when we were open, but when we were closed, I could shoot 40 yards inside.
Really?
Yeah, because the way the building was set up, one side of it had a range in it, and the other side of it had the pro shop and all the other products and whatnot. And I could stand down at one end and shoot all the way to the other end. So it was close to 40 yards inside. So, and you just, kick on a couple of lights and turn on the music and just screw around with stuff. Because I mean, I was 18 years old. All my friends went to college. I only had a few people left in town that I was buddies with, so I just played with stuff.
Yeah.
And that is how I learned a lot of what I know. Because I had the ability to test it.
Yeah.
And prove or disprove whatever I thought was causing
That makes sense.
each thing.
Well, so you're not... My sight tape's going to be fine, right?
It might fudge tiny, but very, very little. If you stick another tape on it, it's like a 5-minute solution.
No, I mean, I'm really picky on sight tapes. Like, I don't just slap sight tapes on. Like,
No, I understand that, but if you...
I don't even tape them on. I don't put them on permanently. I use them for a week and then like...
Okay, so what this is going to do is you moved it closer to your eye.
Yes.
It's going to compress the sight tape. So your sight tape's going to probably be too slow.
Are we going to shoot this through a chronograph today so I can finally answer
Did you bring in a battery?
I left it here at ElkShape camp.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can do that.
So a guy who has...
So now...
wow.
See?
You're right, I'm wrong. You're
okay.
tall, I'm short.
I don't need
You're
that.
good looking.
Hey, you were born that way. Nothing you can do about that, man. That's like hey, when we're 70, I'll take your size over my size any day.
That's a lot of human to hold up.
It's gonna take me like 15 minutes to
And
stand out
doing
of
this
bed.
a lot in your life?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm very active. I move a lot. That helps a ton. So you can still position this just like it was. You just don't need the extra bracket and hardware and whatnot for it.
So I gotta mess with my sight tape, mess with my third axis, and I actually gotta start verifying broadhead flight, which is kind of the finish line for this bow.
Mm-hmm.
And I also still gonna mess with the weight. So you guys think a bow's all the way done? It's never done. It's like I'm always trying to find the best absolute outcome. Because I'm not like the best archer, man. I need as much forgiveness as possible.
Even the best archer needs the most forgiveness as possible, because no one can make a perfect shot every time they fire the bow. It's impossible. It requires muscle tension to be exactly the same, and anybody that works out knows it's different every time you do it.
Especially on like 6 shots in a row.
Is that square? Okay, I like it.
All right, so I would tinker this weekend on third axis and messing with that weight on the back bar, putting a little more weight or no weight. Okay, we're gonna do it right now.
We can take this one off.
Yeah. I'll show these guys what you're doing.
So we're just gonna take this weight off of the front. We're gonna put the dampener back on, so you're still getting that vibration capability. This is so funny. This is basically exactly like my stabilizers that I made like 5 years ago. Same premise of system. And is that threaded or these slide on?
They just come off.
That's exactly how mine work. That's funny.
How much do those weigh?
My guess is they're an ounce or an ounce and a half per each, and these look like they're connected, so this might be 3 ounces.
What is your little scale?
Oh no, I can tell you these are an ounce, because this is literally the exact dimension of the weights that I made.
Okay.
And mine weighed an ounce. So I don't know why those wouldn't. And that'll take all that extra weight off the front, so you will feel a little bit better on the back end. If this doesn't do it, you might want to consider a longer rod before you start adding all the weight in the back.
That rod's pretty long.
That?
Oh no, I was talking about the front. Oh yeah?
Yeah, if you take that and get like 2 inches longer,
I also
the amount of
wanted
weight that it feels like
to
is
go
going to feel like
further.
it's 20%, 30% back.
I wanted this rod to kind of kick this way.
You can, if you want to be like Captain Frugal, we can just put a big crescent wrench on here and bend it.
No, I do not want to do that.
Oh, it'll
I may
work.
use that on my Traverse.
Just go.
No. Thought you were serious.
No, but there were a lot of bars back in the day that you literally just bent them.
Really?
Yeah, the brackets were metal, but they
Oh no,
were
I got a
relatively thin,
bracket
so
we
you
could
bend
do.
it.
Switch it out.
Yeah. So, but yeah, try that, see how that feels. If that isn't enough, I would personally make this longer before I'd add the extra weight, because then you're carrying that weight. And with a stabilizer system, when you're trying to find the optimum balance, changing the lengths of the rods is way more drastic than adding weight. Adding weight does make a difference, and if you have a target goal of physical weight you want your boat to weigh, then that makes sense.
I don't.
If you're just trying to make it balance,
Yes.
as light as possible, add length, don't add weight.
Yeah.
This rod weighs like next to nothing.
So,
Adding 2 inches to this, or having a 2-inch longer rod, it might weigh 1/10 of an ounce. The carbon doesn't weigh anything.
so rather than add weight, add distance is what you're saying there, and that's just basic physics.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing was if I do keep this rod, I could physically add 2 more ounces to this.
Yeah, you got 2 more right here that we just took off. So
Okay.
you could unscrew that just like we did and add that into here and keep adding them.
Okay.
So
I'll
the
mess
rod
with
shank's
that.
about yay long, so I think you can put 4 or 5 on here before you run out of length. And then you could always just buy a piece of all thread, cut it to whatever length you want, grind the edges off, and make it longer.
How long
if need
is this
be.
stabilizer on the back end, this back bar?
That's probably a 8-inch bar. Yeah,
Okay.
that's like an 8-inch bar. So if you jump to a 10, it would probably feel 20% heavier, maybe 30% heavier,
Yeah.
because you're moving that weight farther away from your hand. So
Okay.
it feels heavier, even though it's not. It's just moving it away.
So recap for today. We told them why I switched arrow rests. I felt like we talked a little bit about, what'd you call it to the arrows? Not chalking, but
Clocking.
clocking. It should be called chalking because you're using chalk.
No, you're not.
Doing chalk-
Sharpie.
Oh, Sharpie?
Just draw a Sharpie on the top of it. So line it up with your bowstring.
Oh.
Draw a line down the center of the shaft.
Yeah.
You know, cut your arrow down to what length you're going to use it at. Install your inserts. Put your points in. Don't fletch the arrow.
Got it.
Draw a line on it. Shoot it like 5 feet out of the bow, 10
And
feet
you'll
out
be
of the
able to
bow.
tell.
Into foam preferably, because it won't make it turn weird.
Yeah.
And then you will see which way it turned. It'll either be to the right or it'll be to the left from where it started. That's which way
So
your
we
arrow's
fletched
naturally
to the
trying
left
turn.
based on your,
Yeah, most of my testing,
Most of
it's
your
left
testing.
more than it's right.
and then you took my arrow and you watched it and you said, hey, you could even go shorter, which was great to hear because I went really short. I mean,
Oh yeah, your arrow is coming back to here. The launcher's back here. So as long as you have adequate clearance, which this riser has more than adequate enough
Yeah.
clearance for any broadhead you're going to screw onto it, with the exception of like a gobbler guillotine or something that's 4 inches. Like a regular broadhead will easily clear anywhere in here. And you've got a really great containment ring. There's no way this thing's ever going to end up on your hand. So cutting it down is perfectly safe.
we checked tune, shot through paper, got a bullet hole, and then you took off some weight on my bow by doing what to the tight spot?
I took the extra bracket off here that you had because it was mounted up here, and if you actually just moved your sight in a little bit, you could mount your same bracket on the sight directly, so there's less hardware, weighs less, and still get the same position that you were trying to get.
And then we messed with we didn't like the way the Nock was getting pinched.
Yeah, we elongated the loop a little bit and made a bigger soft knot, so there's a little more cushion and a little more room in here, which on these shorter axle to axle bows, they need more room. They're going to pinch. You need more gap and more play in there, or you'll get a little bit of float. And right out of the gate, it won't seem that bad, but as you shoot, it'll compress a little bit and you'll run into more of it.
And then what else did we do? Oh, we took a little weight off the front.
Yep, took the weight off the front.
We're gonna check that out.
Yep.
And then my job's to go do my third axis. I'll probably film it. I'll do it up in my cabin, shoot some steep North Idaho shots, and then I think on this video I snuck a little surprise announcement, but I'm probably going to switch to left hand next year. And probably go with a 1/2 inch shorter draw length.
Yeah, we'll measure you out when you actually do that, because
That's
the way
gonna
your body
suck.
holds it will be a little different. But yeah, you're probably going to be more like 26.5 instead of 27.
So I'll probably go from being good to great.
Well, that's the hope.
All right.
Yeah. 78.
278.
That's pretty close. That was a good guess.
Look, stay there.
Shoot it again. Yeah.
I know this is a little slower. I just want to know how much.
Well, they're gonna go all watch fireworks in Singapore. I'll probably just sit out. Do that tape. Because I don't really care.
271.
271.
Not as bad as you thought, huh?
No, no, no.
Oh. That's 71.66.
Really?
So this is not 75. That's your Vertix.
There's no way to make that 75?
It has 75-pound mods on it.
I know.
Yeah, we can play with that a little bit. We can make that heavier. But 71.6. Oh, I didn't reset it. There we go. 70.94. So 3/4 of a pound, that's probably 2 feet. So the real speed difference between those bows is about 5 feet.